it's tough. When you're an entrepreneur, you think that you know it all, like strong for your team, because you have to show them that no, don't doubt, let's keep going, let's keep going. So, and in the end, there's where like, who's next to me?
Where do I hide? Go to the bathroom
exactly,
and cry?
Yeah, for sure.
Why is it so important to get people together? Welcome to our Endeavor podcast. I'm here with Charly Esnal. He's the managing director of Mana Tech. And the reason why I invited Charly is because he has a fascinating story as an entrepreneur and talking about the migration to Miami and so many entrepreneurs moving here. And you moved a long time ago. So I wanted to hear more about your experience because you probably were one of the first founders that started moving to Miami.
Maybe.
And you're from Argentina.
Yes.
Originally. You were born there.
Yes.
And you moved to Miami about a little over 10 years ago, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit more about that transition from Argentina to Miami and why you chose Miami.
Okay. So actually, you know what? Before Miami Club, I lived in 4 or 5 different countries around so Indonesia, Spain, Canada, Mexico, Argentina, and then Miami. So it was like my second, my sixth. But I moved directly from Argentina to Miami. And originally it was more, not so much in the entrepreneurial world, but more corporate. Actually, when I came, it was with AssistCard, which is a travel insurance company. And I had been there for several years. But that's what led me to becoming an entrepreneur, because we saw a problem that was happening in the industry and that nobody was really solving it. And that's how I spun off to doing my startup. But coming to Miami was, in the beginning, was very challenging, I would say. Anything that when you're starting, a new life in a new place, you gotta start knowing who's the right people to connect with, where's the community that you wanna relate with located, and where do they hang out, what do they do. Miami at the time, and this was 2011 when I came, was still not the let's say the cool business place that it is today. Of course, the entrepreneurial ecosystem was almost non-existent, and it was still just South Beach and party, and that was kind of what was known about Miami. So I myself, I'm not a very party animal or anything. So I was like, okay, what am I gonna do in Miami and how? And so I think
roller skate.
Yeah, roller skating or biking, swimming, beach. Those things were cool. But I think that the challenge was really finding that community that I could relate with and that I could be a part of. And that's where you tend also to go to other Argentinians or other Latin people, because they're going through the same thing or they've been through that what you're going through. So I was lucky that as I came already sort of with a job that was physically in an office, and I had people at work that I could start relating with, and that made that transition easier. But definitely what I saw in Miami was that there was a lot of opportunity, for the growth of the city, and because of the natural qualities that Miami has, from the weather, the international community, the fact that it was still not sort of like a super developed business community. I'm like, okay, there's a lot to do here in Miami. So I think I found an early stage potential business hub, sort of.
Okay. And so what year did you transition out of that company, or when is it that you decided, okay, I'm leaving the corporate world?
Yes, it was very quick, actually, because I came here in 2011 and I went to do the startup in late 2013, early 14. So it was like about a year and a half into Miami and into this. I was continuing the career that I had before, because I spent 7 years in that company. At the time, the company was acquired by a large insurance group from New York, and then it became, kind of, anyways, a lot of bureaucracy and struggle of power between the newcomers and I'm like, this, the famous corporate BS. I'm like, I cannot take this. Like, it's not about doing anymore. I came from positions where I was able to really drive operations. I was a country manager in Mexico with 50. It was a small team of 50 people, but I was able to really transform the culture of the company and where we were going. And in this case, it was very tough. So I'm like, I'm done. There has to be something else. And I had no idea of what an entrepreneurial world was, what the ecosystem was, what a startup was. Like, to be honest, I learned all of it here in Miami. Like it was more, we saw a problem in the market, which was what we were doing as we were helping travelers when they were abroad. One of the things that we helped with was finding their luggage and figuring out when airlines lost their luggage, it was like where it was. And there was no real-time solution for that at the time. So we said, okay, why don't we go out and try to find a way to have real-time tracking for this luggage. And that's what started back in 2014. It was Nicholas who was the founder of the company, and he was the main investor. And he's the one that called me and said, look, I have this prototype and this idea. Why don't you come and we can do this together? And that was like, okay, a technology startup, like how does this work? so I started reading a lot about startups, the 0 to 1, Eric Rice and all the methodology and startups, and just talking to other people in the ecosystem. And that's where I discovered, there is an ecosystem. There are other founders. There's people that can relate with me. So and luckily, like, we launched the startup. It was pretty successful in the beginning on why, because we were able to secure partnerships with Samsonite, Dell, top brands that wanted to collaborate, and we did products together. So that was one part. Then you had the e-commerce side that was also something that took off, a lot of PR, and all of this was me kind of moving here with all my team in Argentina, right? So that was also the challenge, let's say, of this transfer of knowledge from Latin America to the US, that the team has to also adapt and learn about how to go to market in the US, how to do a strategic partnership here, how to do even that PR. We were in CNN, we were in the Today Show, we won awards for innovation. So I did all that, and in that process, I also discovered accelerators, because
okay, let's
yes.
pause on that.
Yes.
So you're in the corporate world. You feel like they cut your wings. You're not longer being able to do the things that you wanted to do, innovate, create things. I call it intrapreneurship within the corporate world. And so then you go out and explore an opportunity, which is a new endeavor with your co-founder. And you build Lug, and that's where your entrepreneurial DNA. I always think that entrepreneurs are born with that DNA, even if they start at some point in their life. It's in them.
Yeah,
right?
When I was 31, when I started.
There you go. So it's almost like it was dormant, and then you woke it up. And so that's where you started the magic of really understanding how to operate a business, a startup, and what are the challenges you have to face and overcome to scale the company. And so how many years did you do Lug?
As Lug, it was 3 years. And then we started pivoting, and at that point is when I moved out of it. But it was a full 3-year run.
Okay. And you did an accelerator with that company or after?
Yes, I did. I actually did 2 accelerator programs. Yeah.
So now talk to me about accelerator, because you told me that that's when you discovered the magic of an accelerator, a community, a peer-to-peer community where you can learn from other entrepreneurs. Tell us a little more about why are accelerators so important for founders?
I think it's mainly that, the community. So I'll tell you. I started, the first one was here in Miami. Was Susan Amat with Venture Hive.
Yes, correct.
So thanks, Susan, for that. It was amazing for me, that experience, and the excitement of just being selected into an accelerator for us was already something that made us think that, okay, we're on track to doing something cool here. And I think that the fact that you go to a place where you feel heard, where you have people that are going through the same issues that you're going through, where you can talk to mentors and experts that have already been there and done that, and that they have the solution for a lot of the problems that you come up with, and also the exposure that you get, just because from the demo days are usually how they finish, so how they prep you to that, and when you are there, the network that you create, it's just something that scales. I think it scales your business enormously in time, more than anything. You learn in 3 months or 2 months or whatever the accelerator program is, you learn what would take you maybe a year and a half or 2 years to do on your own.
Exactly. Right? And the interesting thing is, every time we pitch like an accelerator program or a cohort, we run several cohorts a year. The first thing founders think is, I don't have time. And you just said that it actually saved about a year and a half of time
and money.
Let's talk about that, please, because there's sometimes entrepreneurs feel they get scared of their commitment of the time that they have to put into the program, and they can't really tangibilize the value of it. Talk to our audience, and our founders, if they're thinking of participating of a program like an accelerator or an Endeavor cohort or at Manatech. Why is it so important?
Yeah, and I did two of them, so I have experience on that side, and then on running the program. So I think that the time that you dedicate to the program itself comes back to you, tenfold, I would say. And why? Because the mistakes that you can make in the process of your growth and learning of of your business and of practices usually takes much longer than when somebody comes and tells you, no, you know what, you're making this mistake here. I made it 3 times, and this is how I corrected it. So you can start grabbing those learnings and adapting it to your current situation, and shifting that would have taken you in a path of 6 months of learning to fail to, okay, I failed in a week because I already know that this is not going to work. So I think that's the key in the accelerator process, that any process that would take you normally, as we said before, 6 months or a year, here you can reduce it by learning from others that have done it before. So it's tough when you're an entrepreneur. You think that you know it all. Yes, and it's like, I don't need these people telling me what to do because they don't understand my business, and because this and that, and that happens. And that's why we also say that you gotta have a coachable attitude, because if not, you cannot participate in a program, and it's your loss. And that's something that we also tell the entrepreneurs that go through our cohorts, is like, look guys, this program is for you, and it's up to you to take advantage of it. If you don't put your effort, your time, and even I would say your consciousness to it, because sometimes it's just going through the process, and I'm having I don't know, somebody speaking about their experience and what they lived, and you're like with your computer sending an email and doing this and that, because, well, it's more important to execute what I have now, that you miss the chance maybe of getting from that person that specific spark that will and can change your business. And you see it in the same entrepreneurs, and luckily you have, and well, done a lot of programs here, so they tell you afterwards, well, you know what this guy said in this session, and here it opened my eyes to a whole new, and I pivoted my business because of this conversation that I had with this person. So if you're not open to that, and if you're not participating in that, then sometimes you just continue doing what you do, because you only, I have a saying that is, you don't know what you don't know, right? So you keep doing your thing and continuing in your own thought process and what you think is the right thing to do, but you're missing out on all this experience of other people that can tell you how to adapt and how to pivot and do things that. So yeah, definitely it's you save time.
And we've been doing this for a while, and we've met so many entrepreneurs that give that feedback post participating after the program, right? Wow, I learned so much. You don't have to adapt everything and incorporate everything, but there's so much you can incorporate, maybe not in the present moment, but in the future you will go back to that content and wisdom or experience that you learned from the mentors or from your peer founders, right? So I always tell entrepreneurs, just be open-minded, right? Have an open mind, be vulnerable.
Yes.
Which is very difficult. I understand, human beings, that we're in that process of learning how to be empathic and vulnerable. I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, I think vulnerability is a great subject, especially for entrepreneurs, because it kind of forces you, when you choose to go through an entrepreneurial path, it forces you to be strong, and it forces you to be resilient, and it forces you to have the answers for everything. And the pressure that you go through, because you have from your family telling you, hey, why don't you get a real job? What are you doing? Or in my case, like, oh, but you were in the corporate world and you were this executive, and now you're doing this like weird stuff about luggage tracking. Like, what are you doing? And that really can get to you. So having, I think that support that I think accelerators have, and more, I think we are as a society, I think we're becoming more conscious of that part of, okay, it's not just business, it's personal, right? And the personal part, being able to lean into other entrepreneurs that are going through the same thing, the same pressures and understanding. And it makes you become part of a community of support that you don't have in your daily life, because it's a very lonely path, the entrepreneur.
And you all, as a founder, you start thinking, am I crazy doing this? Why am I doing this? You start questioning yourself. So the mind starts playing tricks on you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have your family. You have the pressure of actually balancing your life between family, your new company, which is your baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then growing it and finding the capital and hiring the right people. So it is a lot of pressure. What recommendation or advice would you give for founders to really have a healthy balance and mental health and also manage the stress? Is there any tips that you have that for entrepreneurs on how to manage that pressure?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly I learned it the hard way, because it was, for me, it was super challenging when I started with Laglock in particular, and at the time I just got married. I was moving to New York with my wife, or ex-wife now, who's a doctor, and it was kind of okay. We were balancing pursuing her career and mine, and that was also, even at home, it was like a sort of okay, but is my career more important, because you're doing this tracking thing, we don't know where that's gonna go. I'm being so it became a thing in my house as well, and that led to, that's why you have pressure from your family, you have pressure sometimes from investors, or a board that is behind you, and then you also have to be like strong for your team, because you have to show them that, no, don't doubt, let's keep going, so. And in the end, there's where, like, okay, who's next to me?
Where do I hide? Go to the bathroom
exactly,
and
cry. Yeah, for sure. And that leads to, and there's a lot of when you start talking to founders, and I think that now the stigma of mental health is much less than before, and now we're more open to sharing. That. Yeah. But anxiety was definitely present in my life for a long time. Sleeping issues, like I would wake up, with, oh, what happened with this account, or this problem that I have with the team, and I think that reaching out to community, to fellow founders, mental health and physical health, like meditation, for example. I try to meditate every morning, 15 minutes. I do my workout before even I start my day. I try to get my own body and mind taken care of, because if I want to give to the team, and if I want to give to society with whatever I'm doing, first it's me, right? First take care of me. So that I've done all kinds of therapies also, and I love it. I continuously do it. And right now I'm doing one, for example, that it's more about aligning my personal values with my professional values, and like how to mix both and be like united into one purpose, and those kinds of things. I think constantly working on your own self. I think it's kind of supercharging your startup, because when you work on your brain and on your well-being, it's when things start cranking much more, and you're in the flow, and your energy, and you can share. And so
you're more creative.
Yeah. So that, and I think those tools are, each person has their own tools that work, but they don't go too far from sleep well, eat, whatever you put in your body, be conscious about what you put in your body.
Make time to eat. Because that's another thing. You have so much on your plate. Sometimes you forget to eat a proper meal not in front of the computer, right? So it's, how do I really balance my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, whatever works for you. But we're, at the end of the day, we're the most important thing. If we're not well, then everything around us will not work. And some people think that is being selfish. And I say, no, that's being selfish, because I am important. And if I'm not well, then I can't function. And then my team I won't show up for my team. I won't show up for the people that are supporting me. So I always say, you are the most important. And if you're well, then everything will work out. And the toolbox, everybody has a different toolbox, right? You meditate, you exercise, you eat healthy, but it works for you, and that keeps you the energy. And it's proven that nutrition also is so important to have energy and a clear mind, right? I'm going through a detox right now. It's pretty hard, I can say. But I can also prove that when you eat healthy, it gives you energy. So I'm all in.
Yeah, and I think it's also thinking that your startup is probably one of the most important things in your life, but you're more important, your family is also more important, and that this is something that you're building, and it's going to continue growing or not, but you don't know. But at some point, that's going to be a part of your life, but it's not your life, right? Your life is everything that you are around that. So make sure that you put at least the same amount of energy into your life that you're putting in your startup, because sometimes you just get lost in that.
It's the sum of all parts. You can't lean too much on just your company and forget about your well-being and your family, right? It's almost like you need to balance the three areas. And we're currently facing a loneliness epidemic in the United States. And there's a lot of post-pandemic, because people went remote, most people went remote, and there's science behind how important the human interaction is. Being in person helps really make that human interaction versus just being on a computer all day lonely in your apartment. It's starting to affect some people. There's other nomads that are fine with it and they prefer the remote. But I feel like when you're building a business, for some people it works all remote, but solving problems fast, if you're in the office, let's say, or in a coffee shop and you're with your team members, that also lowers that level of anxiety of being lonely in that ride. Because being an entrepreneur is already a lonely ride. But having being surrounded by your team, for mentors, having time for you to meet friends outside of work. Talk a little bit about that human interaction. And I know you're also at Manatech building that co-working space and getting people together. But why? Why is it so important to get people together?
I think it's that, again, going back to what we were talking about, the sense of community and the sense of having somebody to engage with, to share. It goes, as you know, you're talking about happiness, and the happiness has, now there's studies that show that the quality of the relationships that you have in your life have a big influence on your happiness levels, right? And so that's why a lot of people call it family, but maybe you don't have that deep connection with your family, but you have it with a friend or with a group that, I don't know, it can be anything that where you feel, but where you have that intimacy and that connection level outside of work. Work definitely has also, and I'm a believer in culture, in like the company culture for me drives a lot of things, and I spend a lot of time on trying to make the culture of the team work, and that they are also friends, or at least they have a good relationship, because that also drives the business forward. So I think that the being in the same space, and it happens with the programs that we do, or that's why the accelerators are cool too, because you have 10, 12 startups in one same place, and they interact constantly, and they exchange ideas and concepts, and they build these relationships. Yeah, and it happens that maybe we do a program where we have this speaker that is really cool, and then after the speaker leaves, the 6 founders start talking about something that is happening in one of their companies, and the other 6, and they start debating, and that's more enriching sometimes than the actual speaking that we had, right? So that, I think that's what we were also trying to sort of recreate when you have a space of collaboration. And what we're doing with and this is Moishe Mana, he's also the vision behind the community that he's building in downtown, is that he says, today it happens, you go to Brickell, for example, and you just, like, you go into your building, you go into your 40th floor, and you're there, and you don't know who your neighbor is, you don't know who's, you don't have the coffee store in the corner, that sense of community that we used to have maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, it's not there anymore, and that's part of what we're trying to also recreate, and in the co-working spaces as well. It's a place where you can bump into people that are going through similar things, or that can be a resource for you. And that community building today, it's also that, just creating spaces for things that are not related to your work, or that you have to get something out of this meeting. I don't want to have like a talk with you and, okay, what can I get from you? What more? Exactly. Yeah. Just to like be together and engage. And I think that's the kind of spirit that we're trying to bring on the co-working spaces. Of course, that yes, collaboration is there. Like, for me, if you ask me, the vision of our co-working is to have the Endeavor entrepreneurs, to have the Emerge community there as well, to have international governments and VCs and even the service providers, law firms and accountants, and because that, like, everybody feeds off each other, right? And this is like, okay, I have this, you have that. What can we do together? Yeah. So and I think that going back to a physical interaction is important for creating those connections.
Yeah, I feel like community solves for the problem of loneliness, and then it also generates collaboration, which is a collaborative leadership for a community to really thrive and scale, and then you see a strong ecosystem being born. So that's what we're all working towards, right? All the organizations that are here in Miami, building community, supporting the entrepreneurs, we're doing that for them to really have that space and opportunity to connect with incredible founders and mentors and investors and private sector, public sector, because at the end of the day, a strong entrepreneurial ecosystem is formed out of all these stakeholders. It's not just one, it's everyone together.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. And, and to end, what is your vision for that community of the future?
Yeah. So, you were talking about, we have certain values in Manatech that and collaboration and communication and connection are three of them. We have 4 communities, one of them as well. And then our motto is connections that make a difference, and that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to be more of it sounds like a platform, so we call it a hub because we have 4 different circles, which are the initiatives that we work with. So, going back to your question, what we're building is more of an entrepreneurship hub for international founders. That's our focus. It's to connect Miami with all the different countries in Latin America initially, but also Israel, also Korea, which is something that we're talking a lot with their governments there, the city of Busan in particular, because we see that Miami can be that connector of the Americas. And if we are able to have, an ecosystem where Colombia, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Peru, they can all kind of work together from Miami as their, I call it as their showcase, like bring the best entrepreneurs here, bring also the VCs here, because they're going to be able to, the funds that come here are going to be able to raise much more money than what they're doing in Latin America. The founders that come here and set up their companies here, although their teams and their operation can be in Latam, but the founder is here, he's fundraising, he's looking for those strategic partnerships. And it also gives him access to the US market, access to Europe from Miami. So we see that Miami as that gateway for all these different ecosystems to interact. So, and there we play in four levels, let's say, or 4 initiatives. We call them the programming, which we do, the events that we're doing as well in our spaces, and we collaborate also. We want to bring more events, international events to Miami. We have the convention center for 10,000 people, so it's okay. Let's bring those events that are happening in other parts here, so we can continue creating more opportunities for this connection to happen. We are also investing in startups. We're creating a fund and also a micro fund that we're going to be doing to invest in Latin American startups with the goal of bringing them here once they're more mature and they have enough to survive here, because it's tough also to survive. And then we have the physical spaces, right, which are the collaborated co-working spaces. We're starting now with one there in downtown, but the idea is to open it up to, hey, who can come and bring this kind of ideas. For example, we know biotech and deep tech is a huge asset that Latin America has, and that there's no home yet for them. San Francisco has a home. New York is starting to build a home. So okay, let's
Maybe Miami can be that.
yeah, and let's do that. So I think that's at least our vision is that it's a physical ecosystem with collaboration of all these different parties that are interested in just creating the tech hub and entrepreneurship hub here in Miami.
Excellent. And I think we're all having that vision of building that strong entrepreneurial ecosystem, the gateway to the United States from LATAM, the hub. And so if you're an entrepreneur in Latin America wanting to land in Miami and you don't know how to start, reach out to Charly. We also have programs for companies that are already established here. So after they go through your programs, they can enter and Endeavor Network. So that's the beauty of the collaboration between all the different organizations that are here with the main mission to support founders, right? And for them to succeed. And so solving the problem of loneliness by plugging into this community that is thriving and incredible. So I just invite everyone to reach out to Charly if you're interested in learning more about his life, about all the services that Manatech is offering. And I want to thank you for accepting to be on the hot seat of our Endeavor podcast.
No, thank you for having me here. Yeah, and as I always say, it's like, so we hold their hands to come here and then we pass them on to you so you guys can make them grow more. So no, thank you for the opportunity, to share what we're doing. And yes, thank you for having me.
Okay. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah.